We are back. We've had lots of social media messages, lots of emails and things asking where we are. Well, here we are, back for a summer roundup episode of everything that's happened really in June and July. And alongside me to look back on that, I've got the Lutonian journalist, James Cunliffe. Jimbo, hope you summered well, mate.
I'm sweating bullets, so I guess that I have.
Indeed. And the weather's turned. So we're going to get a podcast out to you and go through everything ahead of the new season. And we'll do that right after this intro. Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the award-winning, longest-running Luton Town podcast, having scooped bronze in the Best Football League podcast category in the Football Content Awards. This season, the show is in association with Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned in the intro, we're here to round up everything that's happened in the summer. So coming up over the next hour or so, we're going to look at the ins, the outs, the fixtures, the pre-season friendlies, and maybe we'll get time to touch on one or two other bits, depending on how much Jimbo drones on and
Oi.
on. We will find out anyway. Let's start, Jimbo. Obviously, we've not done a podcast since the start of June. Everyone thought that we'd completely disappeared. Not the case. Just exploring options for our new studio and everything else. As you'll see if you're watching on YouTube, we're not in there yet. But touch wood, we're in the process of securing somewhere ahead of the new season, which is less than 2 weeks away now. So time to get back on it and become regular again.
Yeah, time flies, doesn't it, really? Yeah, and time dragged for a little bit of the summer, starting to pick up a bit now, isn't it? But yeah, it was very quiet, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. To be fair, people are on holiday and that's fine. I think we all needed a break after that last season, didn't we? That is it. We're not going to mention last season. No, that's a lie. We will mention last season a few times, but we're not going to dwell on it. There are reasons to look forward. Jimbo's been a bit down in the dumps for the summer, but he's perked up just in time for this podcast, so we're good to go. Let's do the outs first, Jimbo, because there's been some high-profile exits since we last did the podcast. We'll group them all together rather than do them individually. That's not to disrespect them. I'm just conscious of time and everything else. So the 5 big ones and maybe an interesting one that's left. So we've got Carlton Morris was the first one to leave, went to Derby County, rumours of £500,000. I think there was some sort of clause in the contract that dictated that fee. Daiki Hashioka went from League One football to Champions League football. He's off.
An agent that fella's got, by the way.
He went to Slavia Prague. I need your agent, Daiki. Thomas Kaminski left to join the Revolution at Luton Reserves, the Luton Old Boys at Charlton. Bim Peppel went to Plymouth. That's an interesting one. We'll discuss that in a minute. Tello Asgard left 6 months after signing. He joined Glasgow Rangers, another one who went from League One football to Champions League football in one hit. And then Reece Burke also joined up with Nathan Jones down at Charlton. 5 key players in the squad. And Bim Peppel, who we thought was going to get a bit of a look in this season, and actually, as we sit here right now without a striker replacement, probably would have got a look in. Your reaction, let's keep Bim Peppel to one side. Your reaction to the other 5, I mean, my immediate reaction is, Asgard aside, he's a slightly different kettle of fish because he only joined in January. The other 4 were going to go. They were just going to go. That's the outcome of double relegations.
It's exactly what I was saying in the last podcast of the last season. You can't really make a good case for many of the double relegated players to stay. I think Clark, you could. I think he really tried towards the end of the season. But yeah, the rest of them, you know, Carlton Morris, yeah, top goal scorer for the 3 seasons he was here, but single figures last season. And yeah, he was playing with a bit of an injury, and I've got no inside info to back it up, but I think that the captain's armband looked like it weighed on him a little bit, and that for me, that's why you don't give a striker a captaincy, because their job is to do the hardest thing in football, which is score goals. Um, but the evidence in front of us, and I hope that he can go to Derby and prove me wrong. I've got no malice against the guy, but the evidence was that he had one good season, one outstanding season, and that was for Luton to get him in the Premier League. He had a pretty good season in the Premier League, but scored a couple of penalties and double figures is still nothing to be sniffed at. But he really hasn't got more than 11, 11 goals a season in all his other campaigns, and he's what, 28 now?
29, I think, yeah.
29, yeah. So that looks like on just those numbers that Luton got him at his peak, and he goes, not at his peak, and he goes to Derby. So no, yeah, no problem with that. Kaminsky was always going to go. He's an international goalkeeper, and that's no issue there. And I think that everybody really rates him as a shot stopper. I think there's questionable aspects in terms of his commanding of a box and stuff, which you've raised many times, and so that was probably always going to go. And Reece Burke is probably the only sort of tinge of what could have been, really, isn't it? Because if you're a regular listener to this, we talked about Reece Burke all the time, best defender we had at the club, but he just couldn't play. And somebody made me laugh on Twitter. I think it might have been Luton Eye, but if it's not Luton Eye, then I don't. He said he's a Premiership player, but body made of poppadoms. And so that pretty much sums up what Reece Burke is. Again, I hope he can go to Charlton and get over those problems, because he's a top end of the Championship, if not Premier League defender on his day when he gets to play. He kept Victor Gyökeres in his pocket at Wembley, and Victor Gyökeres is being touted around, just about to go to Arsenal, isn't he, for many, many, many millions of pounds. So that tells you what Reece Burke is like. But so that's a disappointment. But I there was a long goodbye for that situation. Bloomfield was saying he couldn't really progress with players that weren't going to be able to provide many games or weren't going to be robust, and I think that's fair enough. And he's one of those players. Sadly, his time at Luton was so hit by injuries. So yeah, and then there's Tello, which is kind of a tinge of sadness. But I mean, you blink and you would have missed him, wouldn't you? Good in his day, sometimes wasn't involved, but was that because Luton weren't particularly a very attacking minded team? Even when we were having that great run, we were winning by one goal, that sort of thing, which is not unheard of. We got to the Premier League like that, but we weren't an attacking force that perhaps he'll experience at Glasgow Rangers. And you can't begrudge him going to a club like that, who are going to get 50,000 people watching him, albeit in a league that's not particularly competitive, really. But he'll get a shot at Champions League if they qualify, which is fair enough. But I think really the writing was on the wall when Solbakken and stuck his oar in. So that, yeah, I mean, they got their money back, and there's clauses which they might make money going forward. But yeah, it's a sort of a sliding doors moment, really, because if he scores that goal at Middlesbrough, or the one he hit against Blackburn that comes off the crossbar and doesn't go over the line, one of those goes in, he's still a Luton player probably, or they flog into Glasgow Rangers for a hell of a lot more money, maybe, unless the clause, this much talked about clause in his contract, is so stifling.
Yeah, as all of these players are, really, aren't they? They've only gone because we've gone down to League One by and large. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that's a pretty good summary of it all, to be honest, Jimbo. I mean, Morris, would he have been my top of the list of the players that I wanted out of the club? No. But at 29, we were going to have to replace him at some point. Our hand's just been forced by clauses and relegations and things like that. So I've no problem with that. Kaminsky, I've absolutely no problem with. I'm not going to sit here and rewrite history. Good shot stopper in the first season. Not overly sure he saved as many shots as he should have done last season. Certainly at West Brom, that first one should not be going in, and that obviously dictates the afternoon. Doesn't come off of his line, caused a lot more chaos than he solved. More than happy to move on in the goalkeeping department. Yeah, Tello Asgard, one of the reasons why we didn't see the best of him is because the ball largely kept on going over his bloody head, because we go from front from back to front quite quickly. We'll come on to formations and everything else probably next week when we preview the season and everything, but we're both pretty sure that we're going to see 3 at the back this season just because of the transfer activity that we've seen with so many defenders coming in. And I'm not sure that Tello Asgard fits into a 3 at the back system because, he's going to want to be playing attacking midfielder right behind a striker, and I don't think we're going to have that situation in midfield. I think we're going to have kind of 2 central midfielders with wing backs playing as alongside them with, wide forwards and things like that. But again, we'll come on to that next week. So I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'd love to have kept Tello Asgard. But if you said to me, I can only have Asgard or Ali with the formation that I expect us to play this season, then I want Ali before Asgard because I think he'll have much more of an impact.
Absolutely, and he did have much more of an impact in the end of the season, didn't he? Keeping hold of him is vital because Matt Bloomfield's team at Wycombe particularly played with pace and power, and that's merely Ali, isn't it? All over, he terrified people in the Championship when he got going. You put that in a League One setting, which he already has done at Exeter, and yeah, I think he's the man you'd like to keep more. Asgard is a proper player. When we talked about him, proper player, the way he receives the ball, moves with it, looks up, got a great shot, everything. It's got everything in his locker. We didn't always see it at Luton, and again, that might be because of, like you say, the way we played with him, and not necessarily all down to him. But yes, it is. It's disappointing when somebody only comes in for 6 months and goes off. But yeah, it's almost like a lone player, isn't it? You can't get too attached.
Nope, indeed not. Again, that's the price of relegation. Hashioka, he was always going to leave. He wasn't included in the squad under Matt at all last season, even when he was fit. Wasn't really fit that often, and probably doesn't do the job that Bloomfield wants at right back.
Goes and swings a leg in his first match for Prague and gets one in. It's remarkable how it changes, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And then, like you say, Reece Burke. I mean, Luton haven't lost Reece Burke because he's no good. We've lost Reece Burke because we just can't put him out on the field long enough. And actually, probably Christ Makosso, if he hasn't gone above him in the quality stakes, he's right alongside him and will progress beyond him. So if Burke was
wages as well, but I mean, there's no question that he'd go to Charlton, he'd be on more money. So yeah, that's just natural, isn't it? You would out there in the world, you got off a bit more money, playing a better team. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. They all leave with our best wishes, particularly Carlton and Reece, because, well, the impacts that they had on that special day in May 2 years ago, none of us will ever forget that. But football doesn't wait for anyone, Jimbo. When players leave, players arrive, and 7 of them have come in the building. I'll go through them all in order. We knew Cal Naismith was coming back. We said that in the last podcast. We didn't actually officially confirm it, but we'd had inside information that
pretty much nailed on, wasn't it?
That was happening.
Yeah.
What wasn't immediately apparent at the time was George Saville arriving. He came from Millwall on a free transfer. And then on the day of the first friendly at Boreham Wood, Jake Richards, 17-year-old midfielder from Exeter. Exeter are the new Barnsley, aren't they, at the moment? I don't know if they've got any others, but we'll find out. He's arrived potentially as Asgard's replacement. Asgard left on the same day. And then we were waiting a little while, weren't we? We had to wait until the middle of the Slovenia trip for the next signings to come in. Naki Wells signed from Bristol City, 35-year-old striker, maybe Morris's direct replacement. Hakima Doffin from Rotherham, utility player, defender, right back, potentially central midfielder. And I should have really looked up how the hell you say this guy's surname, and I've absolutely...
I think we'll be calling him Nigel a lot, don't you?
Nige,
big Nige.
We will, yeah. Nigel from Wolves on loan with a view to signing him permanently. I'm led to believe he's got to hit a certain number of appearances, and then that becomes an official signing. And most recently of all, Kaminsky's replacement was confirmed when Jamie Keeley was added to the ranks. Listen, that one's been going on for about a week, wasn't it? And we all knew that one was happening. The one thing we missed last season, Jimbo, was experience in the spine of our team. It was so obvious it was untrue. And to be fair to Matt and whoever else is involved in the recruitment, they've recognised that and they've gone and signed 3 really experienced players. Obviously, Naismith we know all about. George Saville, central midfielder, doesn't stop yapping, both to his teammates and to the referee. Hello, Alan McCormack. that kind of similarity. And Naki Well is a striker who knows exactly where the net is. Forget his record at Bristol City. He was in and out off the bench and everything else for them as they tried to go down a different route and always kept on going back towards him. Naismith speaks very highly of him, but that's three experienced players um, that were needed, and they've all had success in their career.
Yeah, and I mean, I suppose you could look at the ages, couldn't you, and be a bit deterred by that. But I think Saville he'll get easily 30 plus games out a season out of Saville. Is very robust, and if you think back to the Millwall game, one of Bloomfield's first game in charge, he I don't know if you say he ran the show, but he pretty much got to all the loose balls and mopped all that stuff up and did the dirty work, which is kind of what you will need in League One and what Luton probably didn't have throughout the season anyway. So that is a useful acquisition. Whether he, plays full 90s or anything, I don't know. But they've got the midfield ranks now, haven't they? He's got Walsh is staying around. Baptiste, I'm led to believe, has made every session in pre-season. He's another player that sort of barely played because of injuries. But if we can get over that, then and it's a big if, isn't it? But he is actually a good player when he plays. He just breaks down a lot. And yeah, you got Jake Richards come in, and Cal Naismith can even move him to midfield if that's needed. So there is a good spine. Clark's in there obviously as well. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And Naismith coming back with nailed on, and that is a good move in terms of leadership. Saville also leadership. So yeah, when you look at it like that, I think it's you can understand why they've gone from the flip side of it is that people are saying, well, splash the cash, get some big names, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, that's never been Luton's way anyway. And, with the last two seasons notwithstanding, that's served Luton quite well. Now, whether you think that that's a thing that probably should change, then I'm not going to argue against that. I think that striker wise, then to be looking to spend some money to get somebody in. But the midfield was not really an issue, and it's strengthened now. Like you say with the Tello thing, the midfield probably got bypassed a lot anyway. So, yeah, defensively, Bloomfield shored it up a great deal until they got to the Hawthorns in that last 2 months, which is still baffling. But it's goals, isn't it? It didn't score enough goals. Naki Wells comes in. I'm led to believe, actually, the pronunciation of his name is Nuki. Nicky? It's not Naki. I've always thought it was that. Anyway, that'll be an ongoing problem for us throughout the season.
We ain't calling him Nookie. That's got too much connotations.
Sorry, Mr. Wells. Maybe we'll call you Mr. Wells, but I don't want to get it wrong. That's the thing, isn't it? You lose Carlton Morris at 29, and for the reasons we've talked about, but he was still top goal scorer, and you're getting a 35-year-old who I think in his Bristol career was averaging about one goal every just under 5 games. But like you say, it depends how he was deployed. But in his earlier years, he was a proper potent championship striker, and he's done it in League One as well before. So I would imagine he'll be a sort of supportive striker, and you'd hope that Luton go and get someone else as well. At the moment, that's the concern area of the pitch, I think. But obviously, they are looking, they are active.
Yeah, indeed. We haven't signed Josh Keeley's brother. I don't know where I got Jamie from. Listen, we've been out of this studio for 7 weeks. It's getting back into it. I don't know who Jamie Keeley is. He might be even better than Josh Keeley, but it's Josh Keeley that we've signed from Tottenham, rumoured for $1 million. Yep, they're the 3 experienced ones. Then, 2 youngsters and 2 sort of ones that have got good League One records. So we'll do the youngsters first. Jake Richards. Saw fleeting bits of him at Boreham Wood. I wasn't there myself, but people who were told me that he looked good and had a part in the first goal, and he played in the friendly in Slovenia as well. 17-year-old, played 30 games for Exeter. You don't play 30 games as a 17-year-old if you ain't got something about you, don't matter what level you're at. Really excited about that one. Could be a really good one, particularly maybe down the line when we get into a formation that I think Bloomfield wants to play rather than the one that the squad dictates he has to play. And then Nigel, don't know too much about him. On loan from Wolves. That's nice to start off with. Loan from the Premier League. That's a box ticked that we haven't been ticking for a while. But Bloomfield does because he played for him at Wickham. So the fact that he's gone in again, he must have liked what he's seen.
Yeah, well, I saw him at the training ground a couple of days ago, and I can confirm he's an absolute unit as well. So he signed some big players as well, which if you think to League One and how the physicality of that division dictates probably where you might be, then that is a necessary a factor for, I think. So Big Nige is probably the right name for him. But yeah, he's got good pedigree, and the fact that he knows Bloomfield as well, that link there suggests to me that he knows how to get the best out of him as well. So I like it. The defence look some big lads, some imposing lads, tough tackling, strong. I like that, and that could be a benefit in both boxes as well.
And there's options, isn't there? I mean, that's at least 6 centre-halves that we've got now. More if you include Tom Holmes, Mads Anderson and the likes, and actually 1 or 2 younger centre-halves have impressed in pre-season as well. I really do think we're going to see some academy products come through this season. So that leaves us with 2 signings. Hakeem Odoffin, who we're led to believe can play a wide range of positions, but we haven't actually seen him in pre-season yet. So we'll cover him once we've seen something from him. And Josh Keeley, Kaminski's replacement, League One playoff finalist last season with the Leyton Orient. Rumoured that he signed for about £1 million. Looked very. I don't watch Leyton Orient. I'm a Luton fan, not a Leyton Orient fan. But I did watch the playoffs largely because of we knew we were going to win the division at the time. He looked very good in the semi-final in particular. The penalty save that he made that won them the semi-final was very good. Didn't do an awful lot wrong in the final. One thing I can remember, I remember seeing it on social media. He has got huge hands, which for a goalkeeper is obviously no bad thing. Meant to be a really good shot stopper. Hopefully, slightly more commanding than what Kaminski was. I mean, that shouldn't be too difficult, should it? And here as number 1, or here to battle Jack Walton as number 1?
It'll be number 1 for me, and Shea number 2, I believe. So I think that's a really good signing, and goalkeepers don't necessarily always make you go sit up and go, yes, that's a great bit of business. Because if if you're at the Nathan Jones school of thought, if they make a save, you go, well, that's his job, and you don't talk about him. And then if he makes a howler, then that's when you talk about them. That being said, at his age, with the season he had at Leyton Orient, very good season, and the rate, the way he's viewed at Spurs, and the structure of this deal that's going in, that they're going to have buyback clauses and sell-on clauses galore. At the age of 22, when goalkeepers mature a bit later, I suggest that that's a very, very good signing, whatever we've got there. And, having that pedigree of playing in League One as well, he'll know what that's all about. And Bloomfield does as well, he knows League One. So when you put all those factors together, Josh Keeley, that's a very, very good signing for me for now and for the future, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I quite agree. Yeah, I mean, our hit rate with goalkeepers in recent times hasn't been great. I know Kaminski was brilliant in the first season, don't get me wrong, but since Tyler, we have been hit and miss, and we've had some right shockers between the sticks. Macy, Moore, and all the ones in between. Maybe they got it right with Horvath, although I wasn't particularly convinced there. But this time they do look like they've got it absolutely bang on. This guy looks a proper goalkeeper, and Luton's number 1, I would imagine, for a few years to come. And then, like you say, the fact that Spurs want to buy back, they obviously think that he's going to mature into something special. There was lots of people sort of questioning that buyback thing, and actually, someone on Sky suggests there isn't one. We do believe that there is. I don't see a problem with Spurs having a buyback. It's not like Spurs have to buy him back. It's just if we sell him, they'll basically get first dibs on buying him back, and that's how it is. And they're not going to buy him back for £1 million either.
No.
They're going to buy him back for a heck of a lot more, because presumably by the time they buy him back, Luton aren't a League One side anymore.
Yeah, and I think that is a way that deals are structured a lot for these young promising players anyway. You just talked about the clauses that were put into the Tello's deal just to get into Luton, and I think that at a certain age, at 22 for sure, then and you've got potential. I mean, Spurs, by virtue of that, one of the worst European Cup finals you've ever seen in your life, but winning it, they're in a different stratosphere now to who they can attract and all that stuff. He's got 3 goalkeepers ahead of him, I think, hasn't it? At Spurs, so it makes sense. That's probably why he went out on loan. Makes sense for them to structure a deal like that. That if he ever came back, but listen, if Spurs can hang around in Europe for a couple of seasons, then they'll be far and away. They won't need that. But they make a bit of money back as well, wouldn't it? So it's a good deal for everyone.
Indeed it is, yep. Dean Brill, goalkeeping coach there, so he'll have had an influence on Keeley, I'm sure. So, yeah, good signing. Looks a real good signing. We're not done with incomings. I think we can be pretty sure of that.
Or outgoings.
We're definitely not done with outgoings. No, that's absolutely the case. Let's cover the outgoings then. Marvelous Nakamba hasn't been seen in pre-season. He hasn't been seen on a single photograph of pre-season. I don't think anyone knows what's happening. I think we can safely assume, with a bit of a heavy heart, that Marvelous Nakamba's played his last game for Luton Town, and we'll cover it all when it's all official. But we're expecting the news of that of a departure of some kind at some point over the next month. Tahith Chong's injured at the moment, but I would be surprised if he wants to drag himself down to League One. He didn't exactly give me the impression he wanted to be in the Championship, let alone League One. That would be another one likely to exit the building. Who knows what's happening with Jack Walton? I mean, we signed him. As soon as we signed him, he disappeared up to Dundee United, and he's come back. And I don't. I, he came back, didn't he, with the quotes that he was coming back to be number 1 at Luton. Well, you're not number 1 at Luton now, pal. We've got a number 1, so I'd imagine he moves on. So that could be 3. And then we have the situation with the likes of Alfie Doughty. Will he, won't he go? My understanding is that they're planning on keeping him, which would be no bad thing because we're going to play 3 at the back next season, as I've mentioned.
With Doughty, though, because of he's still recovering from his injury, he's missed a bit of the pre-season stuff, so he's probably not going to see him for a little while anyway, because he won't have the fitness of others.
Although we have got 3 friendlies. We're recording this prior to the Gillingham friendly. We're doing this Saturday morning. Only time we can squeeze it in over the weekend. He has got 3 more friendlies to build up a little bit of a head of steam, hasn't he? You're right. He may not start against Wimbledon. Joe Johnson's been starting down on the left-hand side in the friendlies, hasn't he? And that might be an option that they go with. But yeah, outs-wise, though, well, certainly the first 3 that I mentioned, Nakamba, Chong and Walton, I think we'd be surprised if we see them in a Luton shirt again.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assumption to make on what we've seen, and maybe even Ted and Mengi, although he's featured a lot more as well. But we know he's an ambitious player. So yeah, it comes back to all those players that played in the last season and maybe even the season before. Some of them will have ambitions or expectations to play at least in the Championship, and some will be higher. And regardless of how the season panned out on an individual basis, you can understand that. And then on a team basis and a club basis, did they do enough to, warrant them staying? And if they do stay, are they fully committed? And that would be the key, wouldn't it? So we always knew there was going to be a massive rebuild and a churn of players this summer, and it's not done. There'll be players going out, and potentially players need to go out to come in, and that doesn't make for good reading at this present time, because you've got a month of the season and a lot of games to play in that first month of the season before the transfer window shuts. So it makes it difficult, and nobody likes it from a football club point of view. But it is the situation we're in. But at the moment, I mean, as long as they can get maybe a striker in before the start of the season, or maybe in the very early part of that, a 1-month window from the first game to the window shutting, then I think that's a good solid base to go from. And then you see what happens, and it could be, one of those manic transfer windows closing dates, which has happened before. So it's understandable, and I think that the players they've got in have given Luton a good solid base. And now you need sprinkle a little stardust, don't you?
You do, yeah. I mean, I was talking to someone earlier this week, and this won't be the case. But were it the case that this squad that we have as we sit here right now is the squad that we have on September the 1st. Luton have got more than enough to get promoted this season, assuming that the mentality's right. And that's the key thing, the mentality, the abilities. We're not in League One because of ability from last season. We're in League One because of mentality on and off the pitch, that we're too good to go down and we'll sort it out at some point eventually, which was unfortunately not the case. However, you're right, players are going to have to go out. We just mentioned four there, but also because Bloomfield plays a different way to what Rob Edwards played. You know, Rob wants the ball, not particularly worried about the pace of the play and everything, whereas Bloomfield wants to be fast, furious, action-packed, exciting, entertaining, and attacking, and they're just two different things. And Rob signed players that probably had attributes of keeping the ball, but not necessarily outrunning their opponents, whereas Bloomfield's all about outrunning the opponents, and if you can keep the ball as well, then happy days. And so there is going to be a natural shift, and that's why I think we're going to play three at the back next season. I think he's he's at least a transfer window away from getting to a situation where we play a back four, and I don't envisage a situation whereby even if he completes that in January, he would suddenly say halfway through what we hope will be a promotion challenge, all right, lads, we'll bin the three at the back now and we'll go straight to a back four. I would imagine he's going to get his ducks in line to go next season, which hopefully is our first season back in the Championship. Here's our back four. Here's how I play my football. Go and do your thing.
I think it's a really important point, isn't it? Because it's easy. Football moves on so quickly, and it's not the distant past. It was really recently. But you think about Edwards changing the way Luton played. We'd been used to not having the ball, used to being the underdogs, used to running hard and battling and making it difficult for people. Even the season he got up into the Premier League and the Championship, we went and beat people 1-0 on their patch and made it horrible. And if we went 1-0 up, you're not going to score, and that was fine. And then you get to the Premier League and you sign some players that can play a bit of football. You know, Ross Barkley is obviously the key one there, but lots of supporting players that can do the same. And there was a definite switch, wasn't it? The first 10 games were difficult. Then there was that Brentford game and they switched it and we're going to try and play a little bit different. But it was all to try and switch the way Luton play and change it. We've just been relegated twice. I think it's back to the drawing board, and the Luton way that got us up from the depths of the conference, and to play that way, fast and furious, and have players that run harder, tackle stronger, and outmuscle teams and bully teams. I think that people will be comfortable with that. How can you not be if you were there? If you've been there for the last 10 years and you've seen that on the way up, it was good, wasn't it? And yeah, it's not always going to be champagne football, but this is League One. You've got to grind this out. You've not only playing more games anyway in because of Virtu Trophy and all that carry on, but it is a massive slog against people that probably are quite athletic. You say that about League One, that the athletic stakes is not a problem. It's what they can do with the ball and quality is why they are third division and not higher up, probably. So you match that, and you've got players with quality, the likes of Walsh, even Clark playing further up. I think there's going to be a massive season for Zach Nelson, for instance, Millie Ali. You know, frightened players from what we saw in his couple of months at Luton. I think that is a good way to go, really. And yeah, the formation wise, it's not going to be exactly what he wants for the way he played at Wycombe, but the three up top aspect of it, I believe it's going to be 3-4-3. Three up top aspect of it, so many more options in an attacking sense. And my God, don't we want to see goals?
We do, yeah. I mean, the other thing about League One, you got to do it on shit pitches as well, which is, you know, one of the reasons why we have to get rid of some of these players. You mentioned three up front there. I say, obviously that's how Bloomfield had success at Wycombe, albeit with a back four and three in behind them. I see that again purely because of who we're linked with. You know, we've obviously we've already signed Millie Ali, but rumours this summer, West Ham player Gideon Kodua,
Mm-hmm.
winger. Sounds like that'll be a loan deal with, again, maybe an option to sign. That seems to be the rumours. Gone a little quiet over the last few days, but, I don't think that one's completely dead in the water. At least he hasn't joined someone else like some of the ones that we've been rumoured, like Josh Koroma had disappeared to Leyton Orient.
That I don't think that. I mean, there might have been interest, but there was. I don't think that one was ever really likely. I think there's irons in the fire for Gideon from West Ham, and that could be a useful signing as well. Not really been let down by West Ham players, West Ham youth players coming in. He was captain as well for West Ham youth as well. So we've had a good track record of getting players from the Hammers, certainly since Stilly came here and onwards. So that would be a good one if they can get that over the line, and obviously then be looking to attacking players.
Yeah, we were told we were going to go back to being Luton, weren't we? Well, looks like the style on the pitch is going to be more Luton this season. Signing players from West Ham, that's more Luton this season. If Barnsley's hotshot pitches up as well, then going back to true Luton will have been complete, wouldn't it? Ali Al Hamid, I can't even say the geezer's name. Ali Al Hamidi.
We'll call him Big Al, shall we?
Absolutely. Well, let's hope we're calling him something. Absolutely shone at Wimbledon, went to Ipswich, kind of got caught in the crossfire that he went to Ipswich in the January that they got promoted to the Premier League, and then Liam Delap came along, and no disrespect to Big Al, but you're not knocking Liam Delap out of an Ipswich Town side, so he's kind of been caught in the crossover. Strong rumours earlier in the week that we're interested in him, and I can believe it because we are interested in a striker. Prior to that, it was Nathan Lowe at Stoke, which seems to have gone a little bit quiet. Clearly, we want a striker, not just to replace Morris. Wells might have done the Morris replacement, but Elijah's out potentially until the new year, maybe even longer than that. Well, at least until the new year, maybe even longer than that. And also, when Bloomfield came in, the one thing I kept on saying through talks that I did with Three Counties and things is that he has a front three and then he has backup front three and he keeps on rotating them so that they don't get injured. Well, we need in that situation another centre forward to kind of back up things. So we will sign a striker. I'm absolutely convinced of that. Whether we sign Al Hamidi would probably be down to Ipswich. They've just lost Liam Delap, haven't they? So they will have to replace him first, I would imagine. But it would be a very, very good signing if we can get that over the line based on his Wimbledon record.
I think everybody would be quite excited by that one. I think that obviously there's Bloomfield links with him as well, that they've worked together before. He made that jump up with Ipswich and then got to the Premier League, and then Delap happened, and so he's not played a lot of games. But yeah, Ipswich have lost players as well, so they're probably to bring people in before they can let people out. So that might be a long running saga if Luton can get that in. And also, Ipswich were quite wealthy going before they got to the Premier League, and now they've got to them, so they're not going to want to just sell the fella for peanuts. So you might have to put your hand in your pocket. But if money's going to be spent somewhere, that probably is where it needs to be. It would be very exciting. I think it's a wait and see on that one. There's obviously interest, but whether they can get that one over the line probably depends more on Ipswich than anything else.
Yeah, I would agree. That one would, were he to sign, I would be amazed if he's here for the Wimbledon game, which would be ironic if he was, given that was the club that catapulted him into the limelight. That would be one that, as the transfer window's closing down, that that the drip down effect would kind of happen, really. So yeah, there's a couple of rumours. Hopefully they come to fruition. If they don't, I'm sure they have plenty more irons in the fire. The one thing, though, Jimbo, with regards to the signings, we wanted signings. We needed signings, and they've gone out and they've made signings. Have they spent the cash that everyone wanted them to spend? No. But like you mentioned 10 minutes or so ago, Luton's record is with players that they don't spend an awful lot of money on. You look at our last 3 club record signings, by and large they flopped, didn't they? So it's not a problem to me that they've not spent money, albeit I understand that there are people out there that see that we're a wealthy football club. We got that comment in the last set of accounts that Luton are a cash bright football club, and people are going to ask.
Though? It's more well off, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, wealthy from where we're used to Luton being. Sorry, yeah. And people are asking, well, where is that cash if we're not spending it on transfers? And the fact that they're not being told that, and this comes down to our bugbear of the last 6 to 9 months of people from the top not communicating right the way through, is opening the door to why aren't we spending money on transfers if we've got the money? Well, it's not necessarily Luton's way. That money is there to tide us over until we're at power court, where we're actually sustainable, rather than now where we are losing money. They don't actually come out and say how much we're losing, but I can confirm to you every single day that Luton are at Kenilworth Road, they do lose money regardless of parachute payments and everything else. The day to day is a loss. And so it's just filling that in. But again, why they don't, why that can't be kind of um, fed into the fan base just so that people know exactly where it is and dampen expectations of suddenly going out and spending £5 million on a player for those that want us to do it. I don't know, but we've been very shrewd with our transfer business. As we sit here right now, I don't think we're particularly weakened with the turnover in players. I think everyone who's left, by and large, maybe with the exception of Morris, has been replaced. And if the season started tomorrow, I would be very comfortable that Luton can launch a promotion challenge. I'm not going to say that Luton will get promoted. I'm not going to say this, that, or the other, because who knows in football, particularly when you play 7 games of the league season before the transfer window shuts. I mean, you're playing the better part of a sixth of the season before the transfer window shuts. But if the season started right now or tomorrow, as I say, I'm comfortable that the squad in place is good enough to have us where we want to be in the table.
And personnel wise, yeah, but also if you look at the fitness wise, don't they have, I mean, I've only had to watch on screens at the moment because they've been in Slovenia and whatnot, but don't they look fitter? At this
This
stage, if you compare the previous pre-season to this, which is, and a lot of people look at the previous pre-season in terms of preparation on the pitch, but also transfers off it. Well, we take transfers to one side, we've already discussed that. You look at preparations on it, and they just didn't look up to scratch, didn't look fit. The results weren't happening, and the results aren't be all and end all in pre-season. And yeah, you're playing a Slovenian second division side in a, essentially a behind closed doors, even though it was screened game, and you smack them 8-1. That is a good sign. You can't discount it. And even for the people that go, yeah, well, pre-season's just a run out, get fitness under your belt, minutes on the pitch and that sort of thing. But the results suggest a team that is fitter, and that was a massive point of Bloomfield when he came in, wasn't it? They weren't. I always get this wrong, so I apologise if I got this wrong. But essentially, weren't fit enough. I don't think I'm quoting anyone verbatim then, but and we saw that as Bloomfield's season progressed, they were running harder, and we were challenging teams, and we weren't getting overrun in midfield, which was happening before he came in, and the evidence is all there. So that is, and that is an a absolute requirement, that, and then the robustness of players to be able to play that style for an extended season of 50 plus games, probably could be, is paramount. And you get to that even if you haven't got all the players that you need by the AFC Wimbledon game, which I think we could probably expect that won't be the case. As long as you get to that game and you're competitive and well, hopefully we're winning, but you don't do what we did against Burnley, which set alarm bells ringing. And with hindsight, even more so at the time, I guess we were saying, yeah, wait and see. But then look where that got us. We got that wrong, didn't we? We hold our hands up. We got that wrong. So you can't have those excuses again. We can't say, oh, yeah, but wait for 4 weeks' time. Wait till everyone's back, and then not this time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we can't do nothing about last summer. But what we can do, and what we've said on this podcast for the last 6 months, is we can learn from it and make sure it doesn't happen again. And that's basically what pre-season's about for me, to be fair. We've covered the transfer activity a lot earlier and a lot better than what we had last summer. So you've got to give them credit for that, whether you whether you're down in the dumps with regards to the board or whether you're not. And, I completely understand both sides of the coin, whether you've forgiven what happened last season or whether you haven't. Again, I completely understand both sides of the coin. We can only move forward, and you have to give them credit for getting their business done early, like they said they were going to do. Have they got all of it done? No, there isn't going to be a club in this league or any of the other leagues that have their business done by the 1st of August when the season starts. Just not going to happen until you shut the transfer window on the 1st of August rather than the 1st of September. But most of our most of our sort of bits are in place. I'm sure they'll have targets to react to when a bid comes in that we inevitably can't turn down, either because of clauses, because of players wanting to go and play at a higher level, or because it's just such a good offer that it's the right time to take it. And that will be the case over the next 2 months with one or two, I'm absolutely sure. Um, but yeah, that's positive. But now for me, the remaining part of this pre-season and pre-season as a whole, I'm not bothered about pre-season results. I've never been bothered about pre-season results. The best pre-season result I can ever remember Luton having was when we got by Ajax in the season that Mike Newell won League One and completely outplayed. And then the first 10 games we went and did an Ajax on the rest of the league. But what I do look for, particularly this pre-season, like you said, Jimbo, are we fit? Because we were not fit last season. Are we fit? Is there an intensity to our play that matches that fitness? And is there some cohesion to our play that tells me that Matt's getting his style brought across? Because he couldn't really do it last season. I know he had that 10-day gap between, was it Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland? And he had an international break somewhere along the line, but we lost 4 or 5 people on international duty. He couldn't really get on the training ground for a period of time and say, this is the Matt Bloomfield way, this is the do's, don'ts, and all of the other stuff, which he's been able to do now.
Oh, if you're firefighting at that stage, you're deep in relegation mire, he's brought in to
Exactly.
to save the club. And it got to the Hawthorns, and we fully expected that would happen. And then, well, like, you could write a book about that game, couldn't
the
you?
deck of cards came back out, yeah. Is there signs of that? So, are we fitter? Absolutely, we're fit. Again, I'm like you. I've only seen the Slovenia stream. As I've said to a few people on social media asking where we are. We've got families, so I give up 40 odd weekends a season to follow this football club. It's only fair that during the summer that I devote time to them. But people who were at Boreham Wood told me the immediate thing that stood out was how fit they were, from 1 to 25 or however many players they used. I saw it with my own eyes in Slovenia. Is there an intensity to our play? You better believe there is. They were pressing from minute 1 to minute 120 in Slovenia, again, with 2 different teams, which makes it easy, but that's fine. Is there a cohesion to our play? Probably not so much in the first half, or first out. What do we call them?
It was quarters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
4 quarters.
So maybe not in the first quarter, but you've got to think we had a lot of the newer players were in that. So they're going to take time to build their cohesion. That's fine. The people like Naki Wells only joined, or Nicky Wells, or Wells only joined halfway through that Slovenia trip as well. So that's absolutely fine. But the more them quarters went on, the more Luton started playing some really nice football. And I get that the opposition weakened because they haven't got a particularly deep squad, and they're early in their transition and everything else. But you can only beat what's in front of you. And the way that Luton played through the thirds into the midfielders, so in that sort of third and fourth quarter in particular, it was Walsh, wasn't it, pulling the strings. Baptiste was doing a little bit of it as well. Taylor and Harris looked really, really good down on that left-hand side. Lasse Nordas looks like a striker rather than the fish out of water that we saw last season. And you could see just in that period of play, regardless of the fact that what the opposition are like, because let's not forget, in training they do it against mannequins, so they actually beat some people who moved. You could see how Luton are going to play this season, or shoots of how Luton are going to play this season. And as Wilco said in one of the brilliant bits of content actually that the club put out from Slovenia, there is a lot to be excited about in terms of style of play on the pitch this season, I think.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see, those building blocks in pre-season. That's what it's there for, as well as the fitness aspect of it. But I think there'll be a little bit of a drop-off because you're going to go on holiday and have a bit of a relax. They're given programs these days. I remember a youngster actually going over Lucy Park with my dad and the dog once, and this was in the Pleat years, and They were pre-season training over the back of Lucy Park. This is where didn't have any actual training facilities, permanent training facilities, and it was all that sort of shuttle runs and old-fashioned stuff to get these lads um, fit again. This 90s, so still drinking culture. English football it was pre Arsene Wenger and the trickle down of all that stuff that happened, and which has made people actual athletes. So while you're going to have to work on some fitness aspects, I think there's more structure, style, play, cohesion that you're talking about that probably comes more into it, and you want to see that in pre-season, even if the results aren't particularly that important. But wins, regardless of how they come, will always give you that impression anyway. So I think that those things, to see that, gives you some encouragement, doesn't it? And I think that you said at the top of the show, I was sort of down in the dumps, and I was a bit, because everything was slow and nothing seemed to be happening. And then the preseason games start, and then some signings come along, and you can see it all sort of clicking more into gear. You're not in top gear yet, but that's okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be in top gear yet, do you? You want to be in top gear in 2 weeks' time. As I say, we're recording this before the Gillingham games, so we'll cover the Gillingham, the Southend, and the Spurs games when we do our season preview next week before the season starts. We did beat Colchester in midweek. All 4 attacking players scored in that as well. So goals for attacking players, that's always positive, because the attacking players didn't score goals last season. So we've ticked that box. As I say, if Lassie Nordas is a £3 million striker or €3 million, striker that we signed, and we see him, he should be far too good for League One this season. I don't know how much. I'm not going to put too much pressure on him. And obviously, if Al Hamidi comes in for the money that we would have to pay for him, he would immediately elevate himself to number one anyway. But it's just so positive. But we haven't come back from Slovenia and hit the ground running for 3 or 4 seasons, certainly since Nathan Jones left anyway. Now that's the next task, right? For all the next 3 games are to build some energy into the legs and get ready for the Wimbledon game. The proof will be in the pudding at the Wimbledon game. Now, it's a completely different fixture to the Burnley game last season, right? The weakest team in the league in terms of the fact that they won the playoffs last season from League Two. So it's the absolute ideal in terms of gap between the two sides from last season to kick off the season with. It's also the mother of all banana skins as well. So now we'll find out right from the start of the season what Luton's mentality is like. Because if we go into that Wimbledon game with Billy Big Bollocks on our shoulder, we will get turned over in no uncertain terms. Maybe not to the emphatic nature of the Burnley defeat, but we will get turned over by a hungry, right up for it Wimbledon side if we are not right up for it and ready to match them mentality wise. So that for me is the next thing to do. But when I look at the fixtures, Jimbo, someone's shining down on us, because it's not the hardest start to the season. As I say, Wimbledon, the weakest side on paper from league positions of last season. I'm not saying that Wimbledon are the weakest team in the league. Don't get me wrong. I've just not watched much of League One football to judge who's great and who isn't great. 2 games after that, Bradford, who were also 2 divisions below us last season. Later on in the month of August, we've got Burton, who were the team immediately above the relegation line in this division last season. So that's 3 of the, if you like, 5 weakest sides in the league, and they all come up in the first 5 or 6 games. And the harder games, Cardiff in particular, that's at home. It's not. It's if you could handpick your fixture list to start the season with, forget that horrible month of January. We're not going nowhere near that, because I don't know how you and I are going to do podcasts with all the travelling in that month. But for the first 6 games to hit the ground running, which we have not done for way too long, they could have picked a lot worse.
I'll have what he's having.
I thought you were positive, Jimbo.
No, listen. I am, by and large, it's always now with an air of caution because of what's happened in the last 2 seasons. And I think particularly when you mention AFC Wimbledon and Bradford as teams that have come up, I think that's going to be, well, the proof will be in the pudding. I think that will be closer in terms of competitiveness than you think, because they're coming up with confidence and we're coming down with the rebuild and having to start again. So there's a lot more uncertainty probably on our side, even though Wimbledon, for example, in the first game have lost Josh Nerfield, Luton boy, by the way, who's gone to
Ironically,
Bradford.
to Bradford, yeah.
But he was their player of the season, wasn't he? And he scored a fair few goals, and they've lost a couple of other players they didn't expect to lose. Although Wimbledon do have a good track record of picking players out from the lower leagues and managing to make them work. So they may still work that magic, but they are coming up with confidence. And so I think it's more of a challenge in that sense. But if you're going into the season expecting in any way to have a promotion push and be up the right end of the table, you can't go into the season saying, any of the games are going to be difficult. That's the wrong way to say it, because that sounds egotistical. You should go in there with confidence, is what I'm saying, with all the games, and expecting and knowing that if you work hard and play to the top end of your abilities, that you'll be able to beat these teams. And so, yeah, I go into the season with these mixed feelings, but I think that's natural. And if you've been hit from pillar to post the last 2 seasons, it's natural, isn't it, to go in there with a bit of trepidation?
Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah, I don't know if I explained myself well. I don't think that Wimbledon and Bradford are easy games, but if you match their mentality, their hunger, and their desire that they're going to have, the fact there were 2 divisions between us last season, we should better them on ability. So it's all about matching that desire, isn't it? Which we didn't do last.
But remember what we said at the start of last season.
But that's what I mean. We didn't do it last season.
The start of last season, I think I actually said this. You could probably go and check it back. I think the expectation will be the word of the season, and we didn't mention it after a while because the expectations never got met. And we had the expectation going in of being promoted, getting out of the division. Well, we got out of the division all right, but not in the bloody way we wanted.
Yeah, the door was at the wrong end, wasn't it? Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll cover expectation and everything else next week when we do this season preview. But yeah, no, I think we're sitting here content, aren't we? I think we're sitting here
cautiously confident, more so than at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah, our shoulders are slightly raised rather than slumped under these microphones like we were for much of last season. But again, the proof will be out on the grass right in front of us from August the 1st onwards. Have we got to play Coventry every single season?
Yeah, it's written into the contract, isn't it? It's the Vertu Trophy, isn't it?
No, it's the Carabao Cup.
Carabao Cup. I mean, if there's 2 trophies that I probably don't care about for once this season, it's going to be those 2. I've said this before. I think it's a great opportunity to try and give these youngsters, the flowers that they need to bloom into a Luton team, a Luton player that can make the first team. And I think it's a great opportunity. Some of the league games will be for players that are more advanced. Zach Nelson, I think it's a massive opportunity for him to really shine, establish himself. But there's other players coming through that have appeared in the pre-season, and indeed they've trained at the back end of last season with the team. Your Ollie Lynch's, Taylor Harris has come in. We expected good things from him when he came in as a sort of a high-profile academy signing, if you like. And lots of others. There are loads of very, very good academy players. I mean, we really have got a fantastic academy, and it's just about the opportunity and taking the opportunity and where that comes. And that's the difficult thing in all football, not just Luton.
Absolutely it is, yeah. Yeah, just finally then, before we finish, 2 of the kits have been released. There is a 3rd one to come, obviously. Good Lord only knows when they're going to be available for supporters to buy. Orange at home, blue away. I won't spoil the 3rd kit because it hasn't been announced yet. You're not a kit man anyway, but what do you make of them?
I thought I'd seen the last of that shirt, to be honest.
Well, you would have done if I could buy the bloody new one. Well,
yeah.
If I can't buy the new one, unfortunately, I've got to wear the old one, haven't I? Orange at home, blue away.
Correct. I mean, you're asking the wrong man. I'm a man that thinks football kits were only good from the years of 1982 to 1991, and all kits outside of that are absolutely rubbish.
Well, you're laughing then, because both were modelled on kits between 82 and 91.
Yeah, unfortunately, the kit that the home ones modelled on was one of the best Luton kits that has ever existed. Adidas on the shoulders and Bedford on the shirt, and everything else. Even the one you're wearing is a replica or a reimagining of an older shirt, isn't it? And for me, I don't care. Can I just say I don't care if you're well into it? Fair enough, but that I can't think of a modern shirt where I've gone, "Ooh, really?" I think that 10-year Halcyon period in the '80s was the best, and I will fight anyone that thinks otherwise.
You are so old. Yeah, no, they look all right. It'd just be nice if we can get them brought somewhere in the summer holidays so that the kids out there who go on their summer holidays who want to wear the new kit can wear it. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. We are back. We'll be back regularly now. We will be in a new studio at some point, but until we're in that new studio, you'll get the usual backdrop be
Or an interim, I don't know, there might
behind
be.
us.
You
Yeah,
never
we
know.
might have
We might have to
to.
go for an
We
interim,
might
but,
have to, but we are back regularly, aren't we? We are back for season 9. We are going to do podcasts as regularly as we did last season. We'll do the score prediction competition. We'll do everything that we did last season. We might miss out on some cup games. They all come thick and fast early in the season, don't they? Whilst the summer holidays are on and things like that. But anytime Luton play a league game, with the exception of the Christmas period, which looks particularly horrible, we'll be here previewing and reviewing.
gluttons for punishment.
Us or them?
Little column A, a little column B.
Absolutely. Yep. So usual time, usual place. Monday mornings, we'll get the podcasts out to you. Next one will be a season preview. Then it will follow in the same week with the AFC Wimbledon preview, and then of course, the weekend after, we will do the review of that opening game of the season, which I'm sure you know by now, but if you don't already, is the Friday night of that first weekend in August, because we are so big. We are live on Sky to open up the domestic season.
Let's just hope they put on a show then.
Yeah, a much better show than they did when we were on Sky first game last season. Thanks very much to the Barber Club and Lower Level in Luton for continuing to host our studio. We really, really do appreciate you guys. To Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs that you see on set. Till next time, where we will preview Luton's chances in League One. From Jimbo and myself, come on, you Atters.